Okay, so a little bit about him. He was born Eric Khoo Kim Hai, hello, and he was actually born the same year as Singapore's independence. So he is slightly older than Singapore, which got its independence in August. So he was born in March, and since he was very young, he started playing with his mom's film camera, and that was how he got into filming and making very amateur films or shorts, and eventually it got him into doing this full time. Okay, and there is a photograph of him when he was rather young. He actually went to Australia to study cinematography, and afterwards when he came back and he started doing this on a full-time basis, he actually started his own production companies. So there's Zhao Wei, and then there's Gorilla Pictures. 1999, he actually got the award for Singapore Youth. One of the recipients, I think he was, how was he? Yeah, he would be in his 30s. And then in 2007, he got conferred the Cultural Medallion for film for his contributions in the film industry in Singapore. So these are some of the films that he has made from when he was very young, in the 1990s, when he started making film. And the first film that you see there, Pain, is actually a short film. It's a very bizarre movie about a man who is very much into pain and inflicting pain on himself as a form of pleasure. And then he went on to make feature films. Mee Pok Man was, of course, his first one. And then there were 12 Storeys, Be With Me, My Magic, which I will show you a little today. And subsequently, he also made one of the short films in 7 letters. The title of his short film was Cinema. And more recently, I think just the last week, In the Room came out. It's titled, or it's described as an erotic film. It went through the censors, had some issues with them for a while, and then after that it was released. So if you're interested, you could go and catch it. I wanted to catch that film in the weekend, but I couldn't make it, and so today I will not be talking about it. Well, in his youth or in his childhood, Eric Khoo actually went to the cinema a lot with his mom, and they will spend some weekdays and some weekends watching films, a lot of them horror films, Pontianak films. And one of the films that he watched while he was a kid, around 11, 12, was Scorsese's Taxi Driver. It's one of those classic films that you will watch when you take a film class or film appreciation class. And essentially the film, if you summarize it, it will be about this taxi driver who is a little mentally unwell and aspires to doing great things in his own capacity, eventually creating a lot of destruction along the way while he tried to realize his ambitions. And because of the film, Eric Khoo had a very vivid memory of how movies, or at least he thought certain kinds of movies, can actually impact people and influence the kind of decisions we make in life, the kind of things that we get to consider when we are growing up, etc. And that was also another important seed that was planted in him, and which got him to think about making film full-time when he became older. In Khoo's movies, you get to see a lot of characters. In fact, I would argue 90% of the time, you get to see protagonists who are sex workers, who are mentally unwell, who desires things that are not so desirable in societal terms, and who also find it very difficult to fit in, who are usually social misfits in our society. Okay, and these are the kind of characters that Eric Khoo is interested in. He explores them very extensively in his films, and for good reasons, which I will expand on in a short while. In one of his earliest films, you have Mee Pok Man. Of course, the protagonist, Mee Pok Man, the person who works in a coffee shop and who's a helper, who falls in love with a sex worker who often patronizes the coffee shop. He is someone who's mentally unwell, and he has certain issues which then gets played out in the narrative, especially in his relationship of sorts with the sex worker. You have 12 Storeys, another film that is kind of separated or divided into 4 parts, 4 different short stories within that main narrative. And you have different people who are, again, kind of problematic in society. So you have, say, the mail-ordered bride from China. You have her husband, who probably in Singapore is not considered a very successful individual. And you have the ghost that's lingering in this apartment with the lady, who's the ghost of whom is her mother, who then haunts her and continues to have conversations or continues to scold her every day as she continues to live her life. Okay, and so on and so forth. So many of these characters are either unwanted, undesirable, socially ostracized, or maybe even hated by himself or herself. Okay, and then something that is a little more recent, My Magic, again about a social misfit. This is the protagonist that you see in the film. He is a father of a child who is in primary school, and he used to be a performer / magician. Okay, but since the death of his wife, he has taken to drinking, and because of his alcoholism, he is no longer able to perform the way he used to, and as a result of that, it just becomes a spiraling effect, and he just gets worse and worse. He needs more and more drink, as the days go by, and then eventually he thinks of a way to help his son by sacrificing himself. Okay, basically, again, the film explores certain disturbing notions, pain. There is an individual, someone who is supposedly rich, but we are not sure where he has gotten his money from, and he is the one who gets pleasure by seeing other people feel pain, and as a result of that, the protagonist, he decides to explore the threshold that he has for pain and how much he can go with it in order to exchange money as a performer for this person, this other character. Okay, and finally at the end of it, he has a lot of money because of the performance that he has done for this character, but he is going to die because of all the injuries that he sustained on his body. This intimate moment with father and son, right? Coming back to the series of movies that I have been talking about, there's this concept of redemption that I want to spend some time talking to you and getting you to consider. So a lot of his characters, they find it very hard to be redeemed, okay, because of the things that they have done, because of what they represent, because of some crime that they have committed, and the list can go on. But essentially, because of who they are, because of their past actions, because of what they are going to do, or the lack of opportunity to do something and change their lives, these characters, they find it very difficult to strive and to achieve. Okay, and in life, these are very important goals to have. You always want to achieve something. You want to move on to the next level. You want to keep doing a level up for yourself. Okay, and by doing that, you want to move on and become a better person. Okay, in whatever ways you can imagine. But if you are being stopped by society, by the law, by the community at large, then all these things will not come to you. So in fact, what they have is really a very bleak existence. Okay, and because of that, you find that in Eric Khoo's narratives, a lot of the protagonists, like I was talking about, they are anti-heroes, and at the same time, they do not have redemption for whatever they have done or they have yet to do. And they are basically people who are stuck in this space, in this way of life. Okay? And it becomes very difficult for them to break out of that cycle. And the problem with Eric Khoo's films is that sometimes he doesn't care. He doesn't really care for closing the film properly. So there can be an ending, but it is not the same as saying the film has a closure that satisfies the story that I was tracing from the beginning to the end of the film. Okay, and this lack of a closure can be problematic because essentially people want to look for that in order to move on, right? They want to close this and then go do something else with their lives. They don't want to be left hanging there thinking about what's going to happen to this character 5 years down the road and so on. So between his artistic vision and this concept that we can call audience reception, you have Eric Khoo, who straddles the two, and he probably will say, well, I'm not that into getting a box office hit. I don't really need my film to be always full house like Jack Neal's films. So it's okay for me to have, the film just half filled or maybe just a quarter of the theater filled, and so long as I do what I think should be done, that's fine. Okay, and this can be a double-edged sword for him. All right, in view of the purpose of a film, what it's meant to do for us, and its commercial value versus its artistic purpose and value. In the same way, if you look at Eric Khoo's movies, a lot of times what he does is he takes whoever has been oppressed or ostracized or just marginalized by our community, okay, and he brings them back into the center. He brings them back into the center by making them his focus in the narrative. Okay, so in this case, people who are blind, people who cannot talk, people who are old, people who have certain other issues, problems, they become the central characters. And as a result of that, you have no choice but to focus on them and to listen to their stories, so to say. But I would argue that this is his lifelong project. He's probably not going to do anything else apart from focusing on the human condition and getting people to appreciate different characters that get oppressed by the system, by the structure, the law, etc. Okay, and I mean, if you go back to what was mentioned earlier about catharsis and what is cathartic in film, then maybe we can consider Eric Khoo's films being an outlet or an opportunity for us to feel intense emotions, intense suffering for the character who is suffering, and then being able to tell ourselves that we need to let that go, okay, and therefore having catharsis in the process. So letting it go and then telling ourselves to move on from there is something we will have to do when we watch an Eric Khoo movie, Tatsumi. And it's actually about a very famous Japanese comic book artist, right, called Yoshihiro Tatsumi. And the artist recently passed away. He passed away last year. This movie was made as a tribute to him. Why? Because, like I said earlier, Eric Khoo started off as a comic book artist, right? And one of his idols would be this artist from Japan, Tatsumi, and he watched or he read a lot of his comics, and Tatsumi was actually someone who started a trend, this thing called alternative comics, which features a darker reality, okay? And this sort of reality features predominantly in his stories, in his comic books. And so this was something that Eric Khoo picked up, okay? And of course, he reproduced as well in his own narratives, right, that he subsequently made. Now, there's one thing I find very interesting, and which probably also happens in other Eric Khoo films, but I think in this case it's something that I relish after watching a lot of very depressing movies from Eric Khoo. This movie is actually very uplifting to an extent. I'm not saying that it's an uplifting film, because at the end of the day it talks about dementia, and dementia is a medical condition that causes you to deteriorate, physically, mentally, psychologically, and the people around you, your loved ones, they eventually will have to see you wither away, just like that. Okay, and when you look at someone who has dementia, you cannot help but feel like this person is degenerating, from someone who is fully capable of defending and taking care of himself or herself to someone that's worse than a baby. Okay, and so it's really a very depressing film as well. But in this sequence that I chose to show you, you see so many connections, human connections between grandmother and granddaughter, between mother and daughter, okay, and especially between mother and daughter. The wound slowly mending, and then the two of them talking, and then eventually cooking in the kitchen. Of course, the grandmother is a cook, and then the mother is a chef, and naturally the two of them would be passionate about cooking, right? But the irony of it is that they have never cooked together before, because of the grandmother's insistence that this should not be the kind of work that my daughter goes for, because she has an education and she should do something else. So I thought that was very nicely explored in this narrative. The question is, where is he headed to, right? And of course, the other dimension can also mean the realm of the dead, right? Where the ghosts would go, or where we are not able to understand and comprehend now. Okay, but at the same time, it is where is he headed to in his career as a filmmaker, and how is he going to get there? Right? And it's something I think I will not be able to answer satisfactorily. I think it's probably something we will have to wait and find out for. So that will be my sharing for tonight. Thanks.